My name is Daniel Abrahams, and recently, as in the summer A semester, I had just taken a philosophy course, the Intro to Philosophy. It was something that was extremely recommended or heavily recommended by several people, including professors, people who had just taken the course, and even some who were on this channel, such as Thomas Herdam. Within the course, we went over a variety of topics, starting with general argumentation, moving on to Descartes' six meditations, understanding the proof of existence, the proof of existence of God, etc. We dove into the mind-body dualist argument versus the physicalist brain argument. Um, we also kind of went into Chalmers' simulation hypothesis and his simulation repos, which kind of discussed whether we live in a simulation or not. And lastly, the nature of scientific theories, what they can tell us about the external world. Do they tell us anything about the external world? Realism, anti-realist arguments, super fascinating. This was an extremely interesting class for my experience, and I'm definitely going to be taking another philosophy class in this coming semesters. From my experience, you foster and grow valuable skills such as critical thinking, communication, reflection, and just using rationalism when making decisions. Um, but you may or may not know that I typically post business related and professional related videos within this channel. So, what does philosophy have to do with business academia and the several business fields? Well, let me preface by saying you don't necessarily learn a lot about anything specifically business related, but you do learn valuable skills that are applicable, such as decision-making strategy, business ethics, communication and argumentation, understanding leadership is super important, and I will definitely be diving into the application and implications of philosophy within the several business fields, starting with finance, information systems, which is my degree, marketing, accounting, entrepreneurship, management, and even economics. It's going to be very interesting.
Okay, to continue, right now we are on the Philosophy Sage GPT chat. GPT chat sounds funny. Um, where it's a very useful GPT model just based around philosophical questions, philosophical help. Um, it's guided by a lot of philosophical topics, research papers, studies, all those kind of things. And I had used it personally to grade my papers, review my work, tell me what I did right, wrong. And to my surprise, it was, I think every time it was approximately accurate on what grades I got on my essays and my writing assignments. So definitely an important strategy when grading your own papers. Use Chat GPT or specific GPT models to grade your papers. Don't cheat. Don't cheat. All right. But I had developed a prompt here that says, I am recording a video where I am discussing the significance of taking a philosophy course for business students and those wanting to enter the professional world of business. I personally have only taken an introductory course to philosophy. What may I learn about the philosophy that is applicable to each of these important business majors slash paths? That includes finance, information systems, marketing, business management and administration, accounting, entrepreneurship, and economics. Furthermore, what are the implications of using philosophy within each of these respective fields? How may I dive deeper and think critically within these fields? Lastly, provide profound questions that leave the reader, others who partake in each of these areas of study, and myself questioning and diving deeper into the caveats of their branches of business. Have them asking more questions that are important to ask. Let's press enter and let's check it out. Oh, that's an excellent and timely theme for video. Thank you, chat. Well, let's start with finance and philosophical applications. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to assess all of the terms and everything because I'm not that toast on time right now. But if this applies to your major, for example, finance, feel free to research further. That's kind of what I'm encouraging you to do here. So absolutely go for it. Philosophical applications. Ethics and value theory help assess what constitutes responsible investment, just wealth distribution, and ethical banking. Epistemology questions the assumptions behind risk models and financial forecasting. Okay, the implications. Encourages scrutiny of financial practices that prioritize profit over social welfare. Promotes long-term thinking over short-term gain, provocative questions. What does it mean to manage wealth responsibly in a world of inequality? Can the value of a company be separated from its impact on society? Are financial markets morally neutral, or do they embed certain ethical commitments? That's one. Two, infosystems, which is me. Philosophical applications. Philosophy of technology explores how information systems shape human behaviors and knowledge. Logic and critical thinking enhance system design and troubleshooting. Encourages reflection on data ethics, surveillance, algorithmic bias. Informs debates on the role of artificial intelligence in decision making. Provocative questions or philosophical questions. When does data collection become a violation of autonomy? Can machines process moral agency, or are their designers always accountable? Should all information be accessible, and who decides that? That's a great question. I could definitely be asking that to people in the future, especially when they major in information systems or DIS, Decision Information Sciences, which is kind of an older version of this major. All right. Marketing. Philosophical applications. Aesthetics and ethics intersect in brand image and consumer manipulation. Philosophy of language helps dissect persuasive communication. The implications are the challenges of morality of targeting consumer desires and fears, and it promotes transparency and truth within advertising. Provocative questions. Is it ethical to exploit psychological biases in advertising? To what extent are consumers truly free in their choices? Is marketing creating needs or merely responding to them? That's interesting. Interesting questions to think about. Now, more on the business administration side, business management. Personally, I'm not a big fan of this major. I think it's super. I don't want to be too picky or say anything, but I don't think it's the best major to pick if you're going to be a business major. That's all I'll say about that. Philosophical applications, political philosophy, and ethics inform leadership, authority, and organizational justice. Metaphysics of agency interrogates responsibility within complex corporate structures. See, this is our like super abstract topics that you kind of have to delve into. Super interesting. Maybe uh, I would ask Philosophy Sage if you're watching this and you're a business admin major, something about this specifically about the metaphysics of agency interrogates responsibility within complex corporate structures. That's super interesting. So yeah, definitely check that out if you're a business admin major. The implications. Promotes ethical leadership and fair organizational practices. This invites debate about the human purpose of corporations and some provocative questions. What is the role of a leader? To serve, to control, or to inspire? How do we balance efficiency with human dignity in the workplace? Oh, I like that. I like that question. Can an organization be moral or only the individuals within the organization? Okay, interesting question. Good questions. Accounting. This one's super interesting. I was super interesting to see what the philosophical implications were here. I didn't even think about it until last minute, so I'm definitely curious to see what they say. Philosophical applications. The ethics and philosophy of truth challenge the interpretation and presentation of financial information. Philosophy of language applies to the semantics of financial reporting. Implications reinforces transparency, honesty, and fiduciary responsibility. This encourages moral judgment in gray areas like tax avoidance, creative accounting. Also provocative questions. Is full compliance with the law sufficient for ethical accounting? What does it mean to represent true and fair financial statements? Can numbers ever be neutral, or are they always contextual? Oh, Sage is giving great answers today. Or great questions. Entrepreneurship, this is super interesting. I'm interested in this one as well. And economics. Economics is a pretty, I think, is most susceptible to philosophy-based questions. So we'll see about that in a moment. But entrepreneurship, philosophical applications, existentialism and ethics explore purpose, risk, and individual responsibility. Political and social philosophy question the societal role of innovation, the implications, It frames entrepreneurship as a moral act of creation, not just a financial endeavor. It also encourages consideration of long term social impact. Some provocative questions. What kind of world are you creating through your venture? Is disruption inherently good, or should it be guided by ethical considerations? This question is kind of interesting. I would personally look into that question myself. Who benefits and who loses from your success? Great questions. Now moving on to economics, um, philosophical applications, ethical and political philosophy examine fairness, justice, and the assumptions of capitalism. Philosophy of science evaluates the methodological foundations of economic theory. Implications. This opens dialogue for alternative economic systems and values beyond GDP, gross domestic product. Um, Encourages skepticism about purely quantitative assessments of well being. And some provocative questions. Is economic growth an unquestionable good? What does it mean for an economy to be just? Can markets account for all forms of human value? Well, seeing all these, they have great, all have great questions. Super interesting. Um, I would definitely look into these questions if I were you. Use Philosophy Sage or even maybe even a GPT that's kind of tailored to your own major, like an economics major or entrepreneurship major or an accounting major, and ask these philosophical questions and see what they say. Because they're all based on a large amount of data, specifically for that major or for that topic. So, yeah, that's interesting. And how to dive deeper and think critically, engage with primary text. Okay, of course. Join interdisciplinary discussions. Reflect regularly, very important. Cultivate Socratic dialogue. What works, not just what works, but what ought to be. Okay, interesting, interesting.
After having taken a deeper dive within these business fields, epistemological understandings, we can now produce appropriate prompts that will guide us and help us answer big questions within each of these respective fields. This could include questions from the philosophy stage or questions from our own mode of inquisition that we decide to ask. I feel that after having taken a philosophy course or several philosophy courses, that you can now become a greater leader in group settings and provide more collaborative efforts with more openness to abstract understandings and openness to questions. What I mean by that is that you're able to think outside the box more clearly, and that is an extremely prevalent trait that is super important to have. Recruiters know it's an extremely paramount trait to have as a young professional. So to be able to demonstrate that is extremely important. Additionally, the way you can approach your strategy now with being mindfulness with all types of questions before diving into something. Recruiters love when young professionals are able to ask questions. Asking questions is really important. From my experience, people have told me that you want to become a sponge. You want to soak in information, all kind of information. And the best way to do that is to ask questions. So philosophy will definitely help you do that. I remember in class, I was asking a lot of questions. A lot of them I thought were pretty stupid, but there's only one way to learn, in my opinion. Uh, and if you're a business student, I would challenge you to take at least one philosophy class because I think that you would be surprised to see how much it sharpens your thinking, deepens your perspective, and challenges the way that you approach problems, not just in class, but in life and career. And for anyone watching, if you've taken a philosophy course, please share your experiences below, be it if you're a business major or not. It would be extremely advantageous to see how it affects everyone, see how others take it. So yeah, thank you so much. And thank you all for watching.